All right, welcome to the Book Club. I'm Dylan, here with the guy who decided Barty Crouch Jr. should have that weird tongue tick thing going on. Keith, what's up, buddy?
Nothing wrong with the flicking of the tongue, D-Man. Pardon?
Here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down box office bangers, and this week we're discussing 2005's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire film. If you'd like to recommend a book or movie for us to read or watch, reach out to us about a past episode, or visit our website at buddybookclub.com. Send us an owl on Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please download and subscribe. Give it a 5-star review, whatever you want to do. Please and thank you. Keith, let's jump into the movie with some stock up, stock down. What do you have for stock up?
Stock up, choking out students that show you up.
Okay.
I mean, I had to start off with this. I think we've referenced it a few times in previous pods, but just full disclosure, I hadn't seen this movie, but I had seen like the memes or whatever of this scene. And I knew that Dumbledore kind of takes a stern talking to Harry. And I was expecting it. I was ready for it. I was like, oh, this could be funny. Even though I knew it was coming, that was kind of ridiculous, right? He puts his hand around his neck, like he's going to choke him out. I was like, wait, what? I didn't know this happened. That was the worst part. Like, him yelling at him is like, okay, whatever. But he literally is about to choke him out. And the reason I think it is because he set up the age line, and he's supposed to be this brilliant wizard, and Harry somehow got around it. So he was like, you going to show me up, bitch? That's it. And he's like about to choke him out, and he's like, oh, yeah, there's witnesses here. I probably shouldn't do that.
Oh.
But in general, this gets me to a larger point about the movies in general, especially with the new actor of Dumbledore. I think he's evil. Like, if I didn't know the books, let me just go through some of the things that he did in this movie. Well, first he chokes him out, and then Professor McGonagall's like, we should just not let him in the tournament. And he's like, nah, we're going to keep him in there. I don't care if he's going to die. Then we have the first event or competition.
The dragon and the Triwizard?
Yeah, the dragon. They all know it's a dragon. There's no secrets anymore. It's just they're going to be there. Hermione comes through, being a good friend, is like, good luck out there. You know, I know you're scared, but like, you're going to get it. You're going to do great. She's in the tent. Rita Skeeter shows up in the tent. I don't know why she's there.
Yeah.
Dumbledore walks in. The only thing he says is, Miss Granger, what are you doing here? What? What do you think he's doing? You don't need to be a fucking supreme mugwub to like know that his friend's here supporting her, and he doesn't say shit to Rita Skeeter, who shouldn't actually be there, taking pictures and stuff. And it was just super rude. What was the reasoning for that? The line in the movie. And then we have Harry that he comes out of the pensive. In the book, he's like, oh, I kind of knew you were going to look into this. I kind of left it open. Not too surprising. And this, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? You shouldn't be poking around my office, you dickhead. And then Harry's like, well, the reason I came here is like my scar's been hurting and, you know, I'm having a hard time. And his response is like, yeah, maybe you should stop being a pussy. That was literally, he just pulls out a memory and he's like, just forget about it. Don't worry about it. It's like, that's it?
Yeah. Well, first, I think he like runs over to this corner and like curls into a ball. Dumbledore does. It was really weird. It was like a weird acting scene. He runs over to a corner and like sits. I think he's sitting on stairs, but he's kind of like curled into a ball, like really scared. And is like, oh.
He's like, I don't know what's happening. And then Harry like divulges something. He's like, shut the fuck up, Harry. I'm thinking over here. It's like, what? But anyways, yeah, I just thought... none of it made sense to me, but choking out students that show you up, just remember that's a stock up.
Yeah, and, you know, I thought it was probably going to take us 4 minutes to get into the Dumbledore situation, and it took us less than 30 seconds, because it was on my stock down, so, you know, I'll burn it now, was just having your own take on a character, because I don't really know what Michael Gambon... I don't know how to say it, but whatever, and the director, Mike Newell, were doing to the Dumbledore character in this movie. Because he was in the last movie, and he might not have been... Obviously, Richard Harris and him are very different Dumbledores. I'm okay with that. And in the last movie, it was like, I remember how much I disliked him as Dumbledore, and then I watched the Prisoner again, and I was like, oh, he's actually not that bad. You know, it's like a different take, but it's not terrible. And this one, it just seems to go totally off the rails. According to Wikipedia, it says that Gambon commentated on the state of the character in the film, and I quote, Dumbledore is no longer in control and he's frightened, end quote. Newell compared Gambon's performance with Richard Harris's iteration in earlier films, showing the character as, quote, fallible and not omnipotent, end quote, and, quote, inadequate rather than super adequate, end quote. All of the things that they say that Richard Harris did or that Dumbledore is not is actually what Dumbledore is. So I'm very confused at why they took that. Dumbledore's no longer in control. He's frightened. Dumbledore only gets frightened in the sixth book when he's like drinking that potion and is no longer in control. That's when he's like visibly frightened. The rest of the time, he at least acts like he's in control. Everyone looks to Dumbledore. He's like the quarterback on a really good football team when like shit's going crazy. You just look to him or the head coach and it's like, we're good. We got this. So you just trust that person. He needs to be that person. So whether Dumbledore is frightened or not, he never shows it in the books. And talking about how he's fallible and not omnipotent, fine, whatever. But inadequate rather than super adequate, Dumbledore is super adequate. He's the only wizard that Voldemort is afraid of. That is super adequate. So I loved your take on him grabbing him by the collar. He also full sprints at him. It's like Terry Tate off his linebackers, what I thought he was going to do to Harry in that scene. He just sprints at Harry and then grabs him around the throat. It's like, what is happening here? He shakes him like a British nanny. It made no sense. And it's more than that, though. He's screaming the entire movie. It starts right when his first line comes up when they're at the welcome feast, and he just screams silence. Like, I'd scream it into the microphone now, but I don't want to ruin anyone's ears. But he's like, silence! It's like, what? When Harry's name comes out, it's Harry Potter! Like, screams it. It's like, Jesus. Dumbledore, have a level of chill on you. Like, what is happening? The whole Dumbledore character is an even-keeled person. He doesn't panic. I'm just not sure why they went so far the other way. And it's because they wanted to have their own take on this Dumbledore character that you didn't see in 5,000 pages of books that they wanted to expose in this movie. It was just a terrible choice, honestly. It was a terrible choice.
Yeah, agreed. Well, you also said like fallible, like, he's someone he's not perfect, but like that's the reason that he is such a good person is because he says that himself. He's very aware. He's like, hey, listen, I make mistakes, things happen. This Dumbledore seems like he gets angry instead of making, he's not like hand up. Yeah, that's my fault. Like I should have known. Or
his decision to let Harry enter and participate in the Triwizard Tournament in the books is like, okay, let's keep a super close eye on him because there's something more nefarious afoot. And Dumbledore continuously throughout this series treats Harry like a guinea pig in the books, and he does it to his own dismay. Like, he's not excited about having to do that to Harry, but he sees the bigger picture, and he knows that if they're actually going to destroy Voldemort, that like Harry is going to have to be sacrificed time and time again, and it kills him inside. And so exploring that inner turmoil that Dumbledore has makes a lot of sense to me, but putting this crazy lunatic character on screen and saying that this is Dumbledore is just ridiculous.
Yeah, he's just mean and he's not likable.
Just some tough choices here with that. And honestly, it puts a whole cloud on top of the whole movie, in my opinion. But my first stock up is SPEW, which is what Hermione's fighting for, the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare. We really need this organization in this movie, or we at least need like SAG-AFTRA for elves in this movie, or maybe some sort of agency. I feel like these elves need agents, especially Dobby was such a hit after the second film that he probably has a pretty good agent. I don't know where they were in this one because the elves are nowhere. Where are the house elves in this movie? Where's Winky?
Yeah.
Where's Dobby? And I feel like they took Dobby out because they wanted it to be more obvious that Mad-Eye Moody was helping Harry, and they kind of put Neville in the Dobby spot, which
I like that actually.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But no Winky. And the entire Barty Crouch storyline, Barty Crouch Sr., it's kind of the whole point of this story to some degree is this Barty Crouch Sr., Barty Crouch Jr. reveal at the end that he's been alive and that he killed his dad. And it kind of just, because of this decision, it puts weird tentacles throughout this movie that don't make a lot of sense to me, including when we talk about that pensive scene. Harry goes up there to talk to Dumbledore. But because we don't have, in the book, he's going up there because him and Crumb just found Barty Crouch Sr. acting crazy out in the woods. Everyone runs out of the office to go find Barty Crouch. But in this one, he's like, hey, Professor, I have to tell you something. And then for some reason, they all just leave. It's not clear why they're leaving. They're like, oh, hey, Harry, I'll just wait here. And they leave. It's like, huh? What? Why did they just
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
So, and it all kind of stems from not having Winky in here. I think also creating more house elves is a good thing for the storyline because there's so many, we just see wizards and stuff that having Winky in there, she doesn't have to play a big part. And I know the people that criticize our thoughts, which are fair, is going to say this is a massive movie. It's book. It's twice as long as Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, the director wanted to make it 2 movies.
Yeah, and I think there was a push to make it 2 movies. It seems like the studio didn't have any interest. Why? I don't know. Do they hate money? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I think the toughest part would be really finding or manufacturing a stop point, like a culmination point where then you could move on to the next one.
Probably like after the second task, maybe somewhere around there.
After the second task, I feel like the third task comes up pretty quickly and then we're into the final stretch. So I feel like it'd have to be earlier than that, and you just extend.
Well, I think you make
stuff.
the third task before the third task would be all the pensive stuff, all of the background there. So the first, I mean, if you were to cut it in half, it would be much more centric on the Quidditch World Cup. That would be longer. The build up to getting to the school and everything that goes around there, much more, I think, personal stories. Because the dance scene was pretty long. That was a pretty big element of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd just be an interesting. Because you have to have at the end of the movie something like an oh shit moment. Even when they break up the 7 books, it's Dobby's death and whatever was the end of that one, right? And that felt like a good stopping point. I don't know if there is one here, but either way, we needed more house elves, and I understand the argument that hey, it's a super long book. They're gonna have to cut a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
my double reverse Uno reverse card is they also added a bunch of stuff that I felt, and we'll get into it, but I felt like wasn't necessary or made stuff longer that I didn't feel like was necessary. And they really could have gotten to the meat of the book itself as opposed to doing some of these more frivolous things. I don't know. It's my take. What else do you have for stock up?
Harry is an attention seeker, stock up. I know a lot of the people were thinking that
Potter sucks.
Yeah, right. The badges. If I watch this movie, I don't think they're wrong. Especially the scene after he defeats the dragon or steals the egg, right? And in the book too, he's this nice, young, humble kid, right? He's basically famous, but down to earth. And his internal monologue is someone that shies away from the tension almost.
I have no inner monologue.
But in the movie, he completes that first task, right? Harry comes back. And he's all bloodied up and charcoaled still from the dragon thing. And he shows up to Gryffindor Tower, which it's kind of like a player keeping their uniform on and going out into the bars with it on. It didn't really make a lot of sense. You're not gonna shower up or anything after you almost got killed. Not gonna go get the blood kind of checked out, make sure your arm is gonna fall off or gonna have any sort of bacteria that gets in there. And,
some dragon bacteria sounds really bad.
Yeah, but so he keeps it on, and that, which makes me oh, so he's kind of just loving this, the attention that he's getting from this. And then they hoist him up on the shoulders. They're yeah, Harry, chanting his name. And if that's not enough, he pulls the egg out, and they're open it up, Harry. He's hey, does everyone want me to open it up?
He's who wants me to open it up? Clap louder if you want me to open it up.
It was a wrestling promo. I was what are we doing here? I hated him at that point. I was fuck this guy. No, don't open it up. I don't want to see it anymore. So, and if that wasn't enough, he gets down after doing that. And Ron's hey, man, my bad. And he's yeah, you finally figured that out, dickhead. And it's huh? What? He said sorry. What else do you want? So he does love attention.
Yeah.
I'm on their side.
Although I feel we can't like Ron too much because they added maybe the worst detail in this movie that has ever been added to any movie that was based on something.
Go on.
Which is that Ron had seen the dragons. They mentioned that.
Oh, because he said that his brother
showed him the dragons, and he just didn't tell Harry. He just said,
well, he told him as a third party by the community property or whatever. He told someone of someone. Yeah, I didn't really like that.
Why include that? It's false. It didn't come from. It's not canon. It didn't happen in the book, and it just makes Ron look like a dick because he's oh no, I told this person thinking that they would tell that person, who would then tell Hagrid, and Hagrid would tell you.
Well, that was the whole Moody thing, though. So
I guess so, but at the same time, it's it just makes it seem like, because Ron is his boy, like no matter what happened, like this issue they're having with each other, the whole point of their relationship is that they're brothers basically. You know what I mean? It's like all this little stuff. It's not going to matter in the end.
It doesn't make a ton of sense because he's like, oh, now that I saw the dragons, you'd be crazy to put your name in. Sorry for like my bad. I should have believed you.
Yeah,
but it's like
exactly.
You already saw the dragons though, so why would you still be upset?
So it's like if you saw the dragons, the first thing you'd do is be like, Harry, I'm sorry, I should have believed you. I didn't realize how crazy this is. There are dragons. Like you're gonna have to face a dragon. Not he'll hopefully eventually find out from somebody.
And then it's like, oh, they actually are dangerous. Oops.
Yeah. So, but I agree with you. I thought when he walked into the common room, I thought he was gonna do like the ear cuff one side, and then maybe the other side. Like, who wants me to open it up? Yeah. He's like a hype man or something. It was kind of wild. And speaking about Harry in general, my last stock up it's a little one, but haircuts stock up. I don't know who decided on the costume and design staff or whatever to just have all these boys just grow it out just to show that they're teenagers or something. But Harry looks like MacGruber in this. He's got this almost like mullety type thing going on. I don't hate it per se. It seemed like an interesting choice. Like him and Ron are both just super long flowing hairs, like they're in an 80s band or something like that. And I just thought it was an interesting choice. It wasn't really a strong hate, but I felt like I had to mention it.
I was trying to find the Austin Powers like. As long as free love, they're just getting their 60 vibes on, that's all they're doing. I liked it. They look much more British boy band or British swinging 60s.
As long as you can have lots of unprotected sex with lots of women or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into stock down. What do you have for stock down?
Making a good impression, stock down. I will say that when we get to Hogwarts, we see the Beauxbatons roll in. Mm-hmm. And they're dressed like Mary Poppins. Yeah. They're shooting out Tinkerbells. Every guy in the place is mouse on the ground. They're all like in awe. Yeah. I was like, damn, all right, that's how you make an entrance. Then we get Durmstrang. They come in with a ship out of water. They're rolling in. It looks like they're going to war, pounding their sticks on the ground, like there's a war cry going on. The girls are all slobbering over them. Victor Crumb's wearing a bear fur. Looks like about to go
get Westeros or something.
Go Leo in that one movie where he won an Oscar, actually. Yeah. What an entrance for both of them. And then I'm like, oh shit, what's Hogwarts about to do? What are we about to see here? Maybe we got, something like the ceiling does some majestic show like the Las Vegas Sphere, maybe. That's what I was thinking. Dumbledore's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of the badass wizard. Let me show you what I can do type thing. Or, worst case scenario, we'll throw like the sorting hat out there, right?
Have it sing a song.
Right, exactly. Worst case. Nope. We're going to sing off tune to some random terrible song that has no purpose and no one knows it. We have to put the lyrics up here so everyone sings it. What? Yeah. That's the intro? We have like the most historic school in the wizarding world, and this is what we're doing? Who gives a shit about this song? Terrible first impression. I would have left the school right after that.
That whole scene was in one of my stock downs, which was walkout music, stock down. This is one of the things I was alluding to earlier, where they went long on stuff that really had no need. I did not understand what was happening in this scene at all. Like the welcome, which is basically the welcome feast when Durmstrang and Beauxbatons students are introduced. From beginning to end, it made no sense to me. It starts with Filch doing this like, oh my god, I just pooped my pants run down the Great Hall, which didn't make any sense.
Real quick, can I say that Filch was the best character in this movie? Every time he's on screen, I was laughing. He was absolutely hilarious in this movie.
The entire scene was a mix of like cringe and uncomfortable laughter for me. So I was definitely laughing when he did the run, like the poop my pants run down the hall. It didn't explain why he was doing it whatsoever. It was just like that's how he runs, I guess. And then the Beauxbatons entrance, I guess this is how they're going to introduce Velas into this, because I guess they're all Velas. But they have like a gymnast on their roster who's like doing in a leotard and like doing gymnasty things. And
I had no problem with any of that. I don't know what the issue was.
Durmstrang, they come out looking like almost like an act you would find as you're walking around the park at Disney World. It's just like, oh, look at these guys, they're doing stuff. Or when you go any city and there's guys there with a 5-gallon bucket that they want tips into, and they're doing gymnastic-y moves, but also some performative dance. Why is this in here? Like, couldn't they just said, like, here's Beauxbaton, here's Durmstrang? Yes, they're regal in their uniforms. That was good for me. I thought the Beauxbaton uniforms were quite nice, actually, the Mary Poppins ones you referenced. It just seemed like a lot, and then the Hogwarts song comes on, and I said, what the fuck? Where are we here? Honestly, where are we? This is not Harry Potter. Yeah. This is some weird children's movie that I just happened to find myself in. So yeah, that whole scene was very confusing for me.
Well, they needed to introduce the schools and like what they're about without having to narrate it. So they're like, we'll just do something over the top. So I get it for the two schools. I was just really more upset with the what was the point of the song? We already know what Hogwarts is about. So who's this song for?
Hold on.
It doesn't make any sense.
Hold on. I agree. They did it so that we would understand what the schools are about. You don't need all the pomp and circumstance to show that. They already pretty much covered it. This one school comes out of a ship in a lake. Okay. This other school comes in a Cinderella chariot drawn with a bunch of Pegasuses. Okay, that's one. And then the girls come in all prim and proper, and the guys from Durmstrang come in all brooding. I got it. I figured it out. I don't need the dance routine. It's like went so extra.
You didn't like the blowing the fire around Dumbledore, and he was like, "What is this fire? I've never seen this."
It was terrible. It was honestly fucking terrible.
All right, I didn't hate it as much as you do. I did hate the singing as much as you did, though.
Yeah, the singing was definitely the worst. No, the little girl being the gymnast was the worst because it was so confusing. I was like, why is she here?
Listen, I liked all the stimuli. I don't know. I mean, I'm a simple man. I liked it. I was like, oh, that's what they're about. Okay.
Well, I was like, oh, they cut the entire actual Quidditch of the Quidditch match so I could watch these people do backflips in the Great Hall and then sing a song that we've never heard before. Checks out. Yeah, that checks out. What else do you have for Stuck Down?
Last one, movie endings, Stuck Down. And I'm not talking about the climax of this movie. I thought that was great. I'm talking about the very last scenes. I'm convinced at this point that they're like, can we one up last movie's ending and make it even worse?
You mean like one down it?
One down, yeah. I was watching it to the end. I was like, okay, this movie is going to nail the ending. The last three were so terrible that they're going to get it. And they're like, the craziest thing is the ending is actually perfect. That great speech from Dumbledore, we pan up to the ceiling, boom, end of movie. Uh-huh. Instead, it turns into a completely different movie for the next 3 minutes to end the movie. It didn't make any sense. Everyone's celebrating after this like horrific, like heart-wrenching speech. Yeah. Where like everyone's like, what a great school year. Yeah. We get that for 3 minutes. We get Victor Crumb being like, yeah, why don't you message me over the summer? We'll see what's up. I'm like, what the hell? All right, that was weird. Victor. And then the worst part is that Harry, Ron, and Hermione have like the farewell scene. And this should be, hey, listen, we've been through some shit together. We've had some ups and downs, but we'll always be friends. Mm-hmm. We ride together, we die together. Bad boys for life, essentially what it should have been, right? Instead, they just make Hermione seem super weak and like timid, and she's like, can you guys write to me this summer? And Ron's like, fuck no. I'm like, wait, what? And then Harry's like, yeah, I'll do it every week. I'm like, Harry, you bitch every summer about not being in contact with the Wizarding World. Like, you would love that. What are you talking about? It made it seem like they aren't even good friends at the end. I'm like, why would you not want to write to this person? You've like spent 4 years of your life with them, like every day, and you're like best friends. Yeah. It didn't make any sense. And then it cuts to like happy music and like going off in the sun. Like, didn't we just see a person die like 4 minutes ago?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Once again, this is another thing that I said should have never been in the movie, and they could have actually filled it with content that should have been there. We get everyone in the courtyard hagsing each other, tasking them to sign their yearbooks. It's like, oh, can you just like put a little bit of Cedric's blood on the page? Because like, rip. It was like, what is happening? Why is everyone so... Is Voldemort's back? Like, Dumbledore just said that. He murdered thousands of people. Like, go home to your families and cry. This is terrible. And
yeah, it should have been like 9/11 just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead, it's like, what a great school year.
And then the three of them hanging out. I totally agree with you. If you're going to include it, that's fine. Them looking out onto the lake, but being like, our worlds are about to change, and we got each other's back. We always have. We're going to get through this together. Because that's what the story's about. It's about them getting through it together and working so well as a team, even though they have differences every other day or whatever the case is. But instead it's this weird thing about writing each other. It's like, what? And just them like belittling Hermione, who is the smartest and best out of them all. So
right.
Confusing. My last talk down is just live sporting events in the Wizarding world. I'm out on them. Not only did we not get any Quidditch action, so I can't really actually speak to the play on the field, but the viewing experience for the Quidditch World Cup looked horrendous. It was all obstructed views. Did you see the like buildings that they had created? When the Minister of Magic, who's took over the Ludo Bagman's job, who we haven't even mentioned that like Ludo's not in this, so like so RIP to him as well. But when he's doing his thing in his box, that the Malfoy's like, oh, we're sitting in the box and you guys aren't, even though they are in the book. You look at the box and it's like an erector set that you're supposed to be looking through. So it's a terrible viewing experience. You can't see any of the actual Quidditch match. The leprechauns, or the leprechaun itself, it wasn't even a leprechaun, that looked cheesy. That looked like something anyone could do. That's not magic. No Velas to get our hearts going a pitter-patter. And when we finally do start seeing people on brooms, it's Crumb out there doing like motocross moves on his broom. They just took motocross moves and said, okay, do it on a broom. And then the whole experience culminates with Death Eaters basically doing a reenactment of the firebombing of Dresden on the tent community. Did you see how expansive that destruction was?
Yeah, I also still don't understand. There's like thousands of wizards there. They all have wands. And there's like 4 Death Eaters that walk there and they're like, we're all gonna die. Everyone run for the hills. It's like, huh? Can you just, like 10 people just be like stunned?
Stupefy.
And then that's it.
Stupefy.
Yeah, that's the end of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Let's go home. Another Scott Evil situation.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But when they do like the big pan out of the destruction, I was like, whoa, holy shit. He's in a World War I battlefield.
It's like post-apocalyptic all of a sudden. You're like, wait, what? What happened here?
Yeah, like they would, after that, considering how many people were at the Quidditch World Cup, they would have gone back to school and everyone would be dead because all those people were there. It's like, I don't think the Death Eaters, like 6 Death Eaters could do that much damage. But hey, at least the time they got to spend in the Wizarding tent seemed pretty cool. Those Wizarding tents seemed nice. Freaking awesome. Out of a Moroccan bazaar or something like that. I loved it. I loved the tent. All in.
Yeah. I actually didn't mind the that whole scene. I thought the stadium actually was cool. The way it went all the way up like that. I thought it was pretty cool. That was interesting. And I did think they needed to kind of run through it quick because I needed to get to the school. So I understood the cuts they made. So I wasn't super.
Yeah, I'm more being a dick about it than anything else. Like the Quidditch World Cup in general sound like a fun thing, but
the tent was the most important, which is what we
saw.
Awesome.
I'm glad we saw the tent, and they did include a couple like book type things in there that if you had read the book you would see, like the Muggle who was leading or like was managing the whole thing. I was kind of upset that people were all dressed in robes and they weren't trying to be like fit in with Muggles, which is what they're supposed to be doing, because that would have been kind of fun from a costume perspective. But without any explanation of that, it wouldn't make sense to like viewers. So I get it,
right.
And I understand cutting the actual Quidditch. Like it's not a sports movie. We don't need to see the Quidditch. Like I get that Crumb is the biggest guy in the world. Like that's fine. If you're gonna cut stuff from the book, I'm happy that hit the cutting room floor. There's just a couple of times in here when they have these big wide shots that it's for a spectacle, like it's for a wow moment, but it just doesn't tie in with reality whatsoever. That being one of them, and then the other one being the maze at the end when they show the entire maze, and it goes on for literally tens of miles. It's like, wait, what? This maze goes from here until 3 mountains down? Like no one, it would take you a month to go through that maze. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
It looked nice, but if you stop and think about it for a half a second, you're like, that makes 0 sense. And having seen the movie several times, that's what I'm doing. Do you have a favorite scene from this movie?
And this is actually probably my favorite scene of all the movies so far. Yeah, I really, really like this. When Harry escapes and comes back, and I feel like I'm starting to use juxtaposition a lot because you use it a lot and it's in a Tool song.
Okay, cool.
But when he comes back and like brings Cedric's dead body and the music's playing and it's all cheerful and everyone's like, great job, you guys did it, whatever. And he's just lying there dead and he's like crying over the body. That hit me. I got chills.
Yeah.
That was an incredible scene. By far the best scene, I feel like, or at least most dramatic scene in the movie. That is how you nail it. Where in, remember movie 3, we talked about how the big turn was like such a fizzle. It was so disappointing. This was like, shit, the Dark Lord's back. He just murdered someone. This is a real person that was right in front of your eyes. It's like dead. Dad's there crying over the body. You're like, oh my God, like this
ain't no kids movie anymore.
Yeah, you felt that. By far the best scene, and like the first time I felt something in the Harry Potter world. So love that.
It's as far from little girl doing gymnastics in the Great Hall as we could have possibly gotten.
Yeah.
You know? It's like that's why that other scene bothers me so much, because this is what this book is. It's dark, it's real.
But I think you need the lightheartedness at the top in order to make the death even worse. That's why I
don't need it's a small world after all kind of thing going on. It can be lighthearted and fun. You know, there are fun things that happen in the Wizarding world. There's tons of fun, jokey stuff that happens. The dress robe stuff, great. That's showing fun, whimsical, whatever, fun stuff. And then this takes it to the next level. I get that. It's just some of the stuff is just kind of cheesy. But yeah, I agree with you. That scene was great. I also like how it's like big band polka music kind of playing.
Right. That the music itself, it could have been like this dark, ominous music, but instead that made it even worse.
Yeah.
It was like shot brightly too. So just like the difference between what Harry was feeling, what everyone else's experience is such a contrast that makes it even better.
Yeah, I think our boy Danny Radcliffe kind of reached down deep for that scene too. I think he did a pretty good job.
That long hair must have done it. That's what it is.
It makes your brain go longer. Yeah, so I think my favorite was rewind 15 minutes, but when he gets to the graveyard, like the graveyard scene in general and the introduction of Voldemort as a character, we can talk more about, the new characters and whatnot, but Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort is fucking perfect. He is so good. And you need a real actor for that character. Not saying that there's not a lot of real actors in these movies, but he's like an Oscar-winning actor. You know what I mean? Like he's so good.
Well, he plays like the worst bad guy or real person bad guy ever, right? In Schindler's List.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot. I think about him when I think of that World War I movie. I think it's World War I or World War II movie that he plays in.
Oh, the Seinfeld movie they reference?
Yeah. Shit, what is that movie?
That book wasn't actually bad. I remember reading that.
Oh, you did?
In high school.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I like honestly like the movie too. If you're into dramas, it's a great movie. I think
we saw the movie. Isn't he getting like bathed for like 2 hours though or something? It was kind of weird.
Yeah, he's like a down pilot in Africa or something like that. And why can't I think of the fucking movie? Oh, it's Silent Patient? Is that what it is? No, that's a book we read.
No book we read. Yeah, it is something like
something
that.
Patient.
English
patient. There you go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just thought he was so good as Voldemort. The look of Voldemort was awesome. Like that character design was perfect.
Apparently they're going to make his eyes like red and whatever, like slits, like snake eyes. And he was like, nah, we're not doing that. I'm too good of an actor for that. And they're like, okay.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Because that's the one thing I did call out when I was watching on the couch with Care. It was that the only thing they missed was that his eyes are red. And
no, I liked it better.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. Yeah. It made him more human qualities.
Those eyes are evil, so like it's just the actor's eyes are amazing for that.
So I just thought that scene was awesome in general. They pretty much nailed that one. What about favorite character? Do you have a favorite character from the book that's different, or from the movie that's different from the book?
No, same as the book. Mad Eye, I thought was incredible. A lot of times you imagine what the character is like. They did it perfectly. That's exactly who I would imagine what it was. Similar to like what Snape is. I feel like they really just nailed that character perfectly. I was super happy. And you could tell he has all these like tics and things like that, which are kind of telltale signs of he's actually a bad guy. But like at the same time, didn't know the twist that you would just think, oh, he's just a crazy person.
Yeah. So it's Brendan Gleeson who plays him. And I agree. I think he played him perfectly. Mad Eye was awesome. The character look was awesome. Like everything about it was great. But I do want to ask you, his first lesson, we lauded it in our book podcast because everyone left that classroom being like, this was the best lesson ever. Oh my God, the 3 curses, that was wild. This one in the movie doesn't give off kind of best teacher vibes. It more comes across as like, oh my God, this person's a psychopath vibes.
Right. That's true. This movie was much, much more breadcrumbs of this guy's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, whereas in the book, it would be very, very hard to know that he was bad. In this, it's like, I mean, first of all, we get introduced to Barty Crouch Jr. in the beginning of the book, or the beginning of the movie. Yeah, so, which I actually didn't mind because, you know, as a viewer, it'd been pretty tough if you just all of a sudden were like, and this guy's the son of that other guy that's only on screen for 5 minutes.
Agreed. It makes a lot of sense for him to be included in that opening scene.
Yeah, and then also the ticks, like I mentioned, like the licking.
You
and
liked
like
the tick?
No, I didn't necessarily like that, but I just think that if you were someone that wants to like try to solve the mystery as you're watching the movie, it'd be much easier to do that in this sense. Like it was like right in front of your face, I thought, compared to the book, where I don't think if you read the book, there's like no person that would ever be able to predict that in the book. The book was so hard to, because there's so much going on. There's no way you could be like, oh, this guy that's been helping him the whole time, he's actually bad. Like, wait, what? We also didn't even know he was alive in the book. So it's like to even predict a guy that's not even alive.
I don't like how they went about it to say like, oh, you could have figured this out. They put so much effort into giving those breadcrumbs that it took away from it with the tick. Like everything else was fine for me. It's like, oh, those are fine little breadcrumbs to leave. But then having him do the weird tongue thing, it just...
That was just to show that his dad knew who he was. That didn't make any sense because he just kills him, but we don't hear anything about that. We never know. No, they never say anything about it again. So it's like, huh?
So yeah, I agree with you. The one point when he does the tongue tick thing and his dad kind of goes bright-eyed and is like, oh my God. Yeah, that's great, but we don't have any of the Barty Crouch backstory, so it doesn't matter to the viewer. It just kind of was weird to me, honestly. I don't know who decided to sit down and be like, hey, we should do this so that we can like, so that on the second watch people are like, oh my God, that was definitely him. See that tick? It's like, dumb. So my favorite character was Amos Diggory. We kind of talked about it in your favorite scene, but additionally on top of that, he just seems like a swell guy. They took out all of the dick stuff that he says to Harry in the book and changed it to like, Merlin's beard, Harry Potter, really nice to meet you. Let's go enjoy the Quidditch World Cup. It's like, oh, sweet. Seems like a nice guy. I mean, him crying out at the end, like, my boy! It's fucking gut-wrenching. I don't know if it's because I'm soon to be a new parent or something, but it like hit me so hard in the feels. It was like real. I don't know. It felt like that guy wasn't acting. It felt real. And it affected me.
Well, I told you, it gave me chills. You just had it as ominous the whole time, and then you're like, something bad is going to happen, and then the guy dies, and it just doesn't hit it the same as like that. Everything's amazing, and then all of a sudden, 1 second later, everything's the worst thing that could ever happen to you. You know, it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah, so I thought not only did they do a good job with his character, but the actor, and sorry I don't have his name, but he did a phenomenal job with the short amount of time he had on screen.
Yeah, and it would have been tough, too, if they had made him, like, a dickhead, and then it wouldn't have hit as hard. Instead, he's, like, a nice, like, Midwestern dad. If they made him, like, just insulting Harry, you'd be like, maybe he deserved it a little bit.
So, yeah, and so these are things that, when you're going to condense a book down to... This movie's, like, 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It's a long movie. But when you're going to condense a big book down to it, there are some things that are going to get left out. I understand that. And some things you have to change. Changing something like this seems to make a lot of sense. It like improves upon it. It's kind of like what we talked about when the Marauders map situation came out with Lupin in the last one. And they kind of changed how that happened, which not only cut out a piece of the book, but it also made a little bit more sense to the story and didn't miss a beat. This seems like one of those things where there's a bunch, I feel like, in this movie that they cut or extended, and it did make a lot of sense. So for studio notes, I didn't really have a lot because it doesn't really matter. I think it's like an 88 on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. I looked it up, but I didn't even write it down. And it made almost 900 million in theaters, which is, interestingly enough, the 6th highest grossing Harry Potter movie, which, I feel like both Sevens, 1, and then maybe, I guess, like the other ones, just like the later ones, but 6th, there's 8 movies, so what made less? Book 2? Casting notes, we already talked about Brendan Gleeson and Ralph Fiennes. We had Rita Skeeter, she's like a famous actress as well, but her storyline's pretty much cut from this movie as well. So let's just slide into some love-hates. Keith, what did you love about Goblet of Fire?
Yeah, I already touched on it a little bit. I did think that they jumped around stuff, but they covered the bulk of what they needed to cover. And I know it sounds like you didn't like it as much as I did, but I thought for this movie in particular, I never thought I was watching a movie. I was just locked in. A movie 3, the whole time I was very, very aware I was watching a movie. Like we talked about some of the stuff they did in that, where I was just like, what? Like, what's going on? Why are they doing like these things? It doesn't like make sense of what's happening. Where this, where there's like a lot of choices that I didn't like, but the movie itself was very captivating. I was locked in the whole time. I wasn't thinking about like stuff that like annoyed me. You know, they annoyed me briefly, but like I would just get right back into the movie. I think the pacing was great. I actually think I liked it a lot. Probably better than you.
Yeah.
I have a lot of hates, but like the hates to me were the most important part of the movie in movie 3 was ruined. The most important part of the movie in this one was the best scene I've seen. So like that's the big difference, where I can take a shitty actor choice, but I can't take you ruined the best part of this book.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
I guess my only qualm with what you said was the pacing aspect, and because for me, this movie felt like a bunch of scenes that they just then put together. Like it didn't have like a continuation kind of thing. So it was just like, oh, here's this scene, and then we jump to somewhere else, and it's this scene. Especially because it goes throughout the whole year, and then it's like, oh, all of a sudden we're over here, and then we're over here. It's just like it didn't flow. There wasn't a lot of flow to it. It just seemed like they stitched together a bunch of scenes.
The 20-hour plus book task to make that into a 2-hour movie is I mean, I gave them some breaks there. Like, but I agree. Like, I mean, there was a lot of scenes, but I think the scenes were good. But you're right; it definitely could have been better flowing. But I think this is a hard ask.
Yeah, that's fair. I loved the characters. I know we talked about it already, but the Mad Eye Moody, Voldemort, the graveyard scene, everything with Moody in it, even like his shot right after Filch does his poop run of Moody like on the rocks looking up at the castle. Like some of those shots were really good. And we don't like the actual conversation that's going on with Harry, Ron, and Hermione at the end. But I did like that shot, you know, of them kind of overlooking the lake as like those people are going away, kind of like a transition to a new time. It checked out for me, so I like that stuff. And I thought the first task in terms of like how the dragons look was probably the best iteration of dragon CGI I feel like we've seen. They talk so much about how good the dragons were in Game of Thrones, and there were some good dragon scenes, but this came out earlier and it was better in my opinion. So,
well, I also think just the 3 tasks in general, like I definitely have some complaints about them, but overall, that's really what the movie was about, the 3 tasks. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a good job, especially the first one. I have really no complaints other than Dumbledore being a dickhead to Hermione for no reason.
Yeah. Mer people looked great. The Mer people looked awesome.
The second one was good. The only issue I had with that was Cedric gets there like right after Harry, and he's the one that actually releases Cho Chang. And in the book, Harry's the one that gets there first, cuts the person off, and then like helps Cedric cut everyone else out. Cedric really was the person that won.
Yeah, Cedric got there like a second after Harry in the movie.
Harry wouldn't have gotten them out if he didn't help.
Yeah. So and yeah, in the book, Harry I think like gives Cedric a sharp stone or something to cut her out. So I agree with you there. We might have to talk about the third task because I will not agree with you there. What else did you love?
I already mentioned it. Filch just stealing every scene he was in. They figured out Filch. Like the first 3, I'm like, this guy sucks. What's the point of him being here? Now he's the comedic relief.
Yeah,
I love it.
He's something like that. I honestly didn't really love much else. So, what about hates?
Hermione in general, just I already mentioned earlier, but she just seemed weak and emotional. That's not really her in the book at all. I really like her in the book because, especially when like they wrote the whole gossip call on her, and she was just like, "Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like, you know, I'm not gonna get mad. I'm gonna even. Like, I'm gonna like hit the books harder." And this, like, they write the gossip call and she's like crying, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah, Hermione's like the Donatello Ninja Turtle. Like she's the smartest one of the bunch, but she's also a badass. You know, like she can also do the kung fu and shit. So, and obviously they're not doing kung fu in wizarding stuff, but you know, she's even keeled, knows it all, and like has a plan. Almost conniving, but in the best way. She'll figure it out.
The fact that she shows like no emotion at all, and then she shows emotion at the ball. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Like she really does have feelings. Like that's what upsets her. But if she's just showing emotion at all times and is upset all the time, and then it's like, she's just whiny then. She's weak. She's not like the character you need her to be.
Yeah, it's okay for her to show that, I felt like, at the ball with Ron because of their growing relationship. But
then she gets to like the gossip column and she's crying. And then like they're like, will you please write me at the end of the... It's like, what? She wouldn't do that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
It seemed out of her character. So for my hates, we talked about movies for lesson, Ron seeing the dragons. The learning to dance scene before the ball, get it out of here. Who decided to add that?
With Miss McGonagall and Ron.
And Neville and Ron. It's like, sure, this is probably that like levity or whatever the thing is to fine. But it's like a value over replacement, as they say in the sports world, value over replacement, because it's a fine scene. It's not good, but it's fine to show that. But the replacement is having all the other stuff that happened in the book in there. It's like a 5-minute scene. You could have definitely fit in some Winky. You could have definitely fit in some Ludo Bagman. You could have definitely fit in the Rita Skeeter storyline about how she's a secret animagus and that's actually Hermione's whole plan from the get-go. You could have fit in Harry giving the money to the Weasleys to start their empire. There's so many other things you could have slid in there with that 5 minutes than them learning to dance. And once again, it was just kind of like cut. It's like this scene just got like pasted in there. It didn't make any sense. So
the actors, fun fact, took 3 weeks of dance practice to prepare for that scene, so they needed to keep it in. So I was like, wait, 3 weeks? They were doing like 1 step, 2 steps, and I'm an awful dancer, but I think I could pick that up in like a day.
Yeah, I think it was like a waltz, like a 1 2 3 1 2
yeah,
3.
1, right. 2, I don't think there's much talent in that.
Yeah. So I just thought that scene was pretty fucking stupid. What else you hate?
Yeah, I didn't left out the third task.
Thank you. That's where I'm going next.
The trees and like the roots being the enemy. I much liked it better when it was just an actual maze with like enemies in at the corners of the maze, not that. Like they left out the troll, which I thought would have been cool to add in. The worst part too of Dumbledore is like, you'll change when you get in there. Huh? What? Like, so it makes it seem like Victor Crumb goes crazy. You're like, oh, it's just because the trees are crazy. It makes it so the fact that he gets possessed, that should be like, what the fuck's going on with Victor? Why is he doing that? But instead you're like, I guess it's the trees that are making him crazy. It was stupid. They should have just kept it the same as the book.
Yeah, it started off with the giant maze that goes on forever, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a problem. Someone just like was doing the computer graphic imaging or whatever and just like kept copy and pasting more maze throughout the shot that they had. I was like, you could have stopped somewhere. And I was fine with it just being like super dark and misty. Like, that's fine. Set a tone. No problem. But the whole point of the maze is it's supposed to be the ultimate wizarding task. It's simple. You're trying to find a cup, but strewn throughout this maze is different creatures from the wizarding world that you're going to have to get by, or different things. It makes the most sense. Instead, the maze itself is the enemy. It's like all of a sudden became The Shining, and the roots coming to get you, the trees closing in on you. And then the 2 biggest issues I have with the whole maze is Cedric uses Expelliarmus on Crumb, and it doesn't even disarm him. It hits him in the chest, he flies away, and they even cut a close-up scene of Crumb, a close-up shot of Crumb holding his wand. It's like, what?
Good observation.
Expelliarmus is you disarm someone. That's literally what it is. And it was like, okay, this is just another thing of these movies where all the spells do exactly the same thing. It's just you hit someone with a laser beam and they fly away. It's like, I hate that. And then the biggest issue is they got the Cedric and Harry at the end going for the cup so wrong. That bothered me the most, because it's supposed to be that they both fought off Crumb and they see the cup and they know they're equidistance away and they say, you know what, let's just go.
But the scene after that's so good that you forget.
Yeah, you forget.
Let's be honest.
Like, hey, let's go grab it together, and they're chums. Let's do this for Hogwarts. And it also helps Cedric's case as like, he's just a good guy. Cedric is just a good guy. As simple as that. And instead, they're like elbowing each other in the face, sprinting for this cup, and which then all of a sudden the maze just jumps up and grabs Cedric, and he's crying for Harry to come save him. It's like, Harry is not the savior there. They're just two kids in a fucking shitty situation that are gonna win it together because humanity prevails over evil. And I know they tried to do that with like Harry saying to him like, oh, I almost thought I wasn't gonna save you too, to show, you know, how we can all be as humans. But it took the tone all the way the wrong way for me on that. How does it rank for the movies for you that you've seen? Because you'd seen the first one, right? But you hadn't seen 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the other
So
ones.
now that you've seen them, how do you rank all the movies?
Kind of surprised you, I think. I think this was the best one. The other ones weren't as well acted, or they weren't as well paced, or they were like dumb, like the third one. I think it's 4, 1, 2, 3 for me. So
fascinating. I like this because our books are so far right in line. So, yeah, this was probably the second worst, I would say. I'm going to go with...
Let me ask you this. What, if you look at all 4 of the movies, what's the most memorable scenes? Because to me, the death scene when he comes back and the Voldemort scene when he's there and the dragon and the water scene are all in the top 10. Mm-hmm. With the top 2 being the death scene and the Voldemort scene. So I can't even think of like what would be on that list from any of the other movies. That's my biggest problem with the other movies. They're not super memorable. They're just like, oh, I watched something. Yeah. Where this one's, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about the movie after it.
Yeah, that's it's a fair point. But I'd say my counterpoint would be someone could have like a sick touchdown in a football game, but still lose the game. You know, so that's a memorable touchdown, memorable catch. Yeah. If you will, whatever the case is.
So you'd rather go to a game that's like 9-6, three field goals that wins the game, and you're like, that was good, we won.
No, I'm saying that the entirety of the game itself might be more entertaining, even though there's not one standout play that I was like, wow, that was a great play. So for me, my ranking is probably 3, 1, 4, 2.
Okay, I can't believe you have 3 as the number 1 movie. That movie, I still am pissed about that movie. I think it was trash, but that's just me.
Yeah.
That's why we're different. You're the artsy, you know. This guy is nominated for all these directional.
Yeah, and you just want to see people get murdered. That's it.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think you're artsy. I like death. What are we getting there? Exactly.
Yeah, you're fartsy. All right. All right. What do we got coming up next?
We got book 5, Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, coming up next.
All right, well, that was Goblet of Fire, the movie. We'll probably catch you in a week or two for Order of the Phoenix. Excited for it.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye now.